Okay, changing your reality and manifesting more of the things that you want is actually not that hard. All you've got to do is become aware of what you're thinking, change those thoughts to align with what you want, and live from the end of you already being that person who already has the thing, who's already doing the thing, who's already living the life that you want to live. One of the first things that I often recommend to my clients to do when we start working together, and this is what I have done as well over the past, is to just get quiet for a minute, sit down with your own thoughts, get a journal, get a pen, allow yourself 20, 30 minutes to not be disturbed, and just notice all the thoughts that come up. And it can feel so uncomfortable to begin with, but we need to understand what you've been thinking, okay, that has created the reality that you're living now. Because if you want something different, you have to be able to interrupt those thoughts and be able to replace them essentially with new thoughts, right? That are in alignment with what you want. So don't bypass that piece, because that is what you can't see, what you're not aware of right now, you can't change. But once you become aware of it, you can change it. And then we start to introduce those new affirmations, right? That basically contradict that old story, that old way of being. We start to introduce those. We saturate the mind with those so that becomes the new story. That becomes the new you, the new identity. And then you live as that new person, right? You start living and you make the choice today. You make the choice now that this is who I am now. I am the person who realizes that I'm good enough. I deserve all the love in the world, that I can have as much money as I want because it's not limited, that I can do X, Y, Z, insert your dream here. And you just start being that person. You start thinking like them. You start moving like them. You start taking action from that place as though you are already doing the thing. And so one of the things that I often talk about with my clients, I work with a lot of coaches who want more clients, okay? And I often say to them, right now, you're creating content as the baby coach, as the person who's not yet getting the results, as the person who's not signing the clients. How would you create content if you knew that your program was already sold out? If you knew that you were already working with your dream clients? And often what they find is that they start creating from overflow. They're not creating from this place of desperation anymore. They're not attached to a particular outcome because they know they've already got it. Same thing can be said, if you are manifesting an SP, for example, right? How would you, if you were the person that already had them, who was already in the relationship with them or whatever it is that you want, would you be checking your phone every 5 minutes to see if they've responded to your text? No, you wouldn't, because you'd already be in that relationship. So how would you show up? How would you be thinking? What would you be believing? What would you be telling yourself? And one of the biggest parts here is who you're being in those moments when you would normally get triggered. Are you going to spiral, or are you going to interrupt that old thought? And this is the part that takes so much practice. But are you going to interrupt that old thought and say, hang on, that's my old story, or that's the old story. We don't want to identify with it anymore. That's the old story. The new story is this. This is what I'm choosing. Of course I'm loved. Of course I'm wanted. Of course I'm more than good enough. And the more you practice that, the better you get at it. And the more that new story starts to take over, right? Because there's this, I always find that there's this period of the old identity is holding on for dear life. It's gripping on because that's all you've known, right? That's what has been familiar. It's always going to fight against that new identity. And your job is to remember that, okay, I've made this decision that this is who I am now. This is the new me. I've got to remember to show up as the new me. And every time that old story creeps in, I've got to stop it and interrupt it and get back into the new state of who I am now.